This video requires a bit of context. Prior to Ian's ideas, we made a show called Apathetic Reviews. It was very similar in format, but to be honest, I'm not proud of it anymore. People who were searching for the channel would stumble across these videos, and I just don't feel like they're a good representation of what we're trying to do, so I recently made all episodes of it private. That being said, there were some good moments, so every now and then I'm going to be attempting to remake some of these videos and even reuse some of the clips from them. It's basically when I felt like we had a good idea, but that we could have executed it better. Sorry for the long intro. Let's talk about some family fun centers. Let's go back to the 90s. Yes, it's cliche to talk about the 90s, but I don't care. To me, it was the best time. And I know that's probably just because I was a kid, but I'm fine with that. Obviously, the king of family fun centers was Chuck E. Cheese's. We'll get to them last. First, I want to look at a few places that were exclusive to my hometown of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Joyrides was an enormous family fun center that might have even been considered a small theme park. It was built in a field in the middle of nowhere just east of the city, although that part of town is much more developed now. Upon entering, you would find yourself in a building the size of a large warehouse, absolutely packed with arcade games. I never spent a ton of time in the arcade because the real fun was outside. They had bumper boats, a huge slide, a couple thrill rides, and of course 3 go-kart tracks, hence the name Joyrides. They also had mini golf, which I actually don't recall ever playing. In October, they had the best haunted house attraction in town. They held corporate events too. Back in the day, my sister was a cake decorator for Walmart, and they had a company party at Joyrides that she was able to bring the whole family to. Not much of a consolation for working at Walmart, but I'm sure it was a fun day. The park operated from 1999 to 2006, but before that, it was McNulty's Mini Amusement Park, and before that, it was Boardwalk USA. The owner, Gary Hagland, owned a large construction business and decided to focus on that, closing Joyrides permanently in 2006. Gary claimed that Joyrides was successful and he just wanted to focus his efforts elsewhere, but evidence shows that public interest in family fun centers was waning at the time. The park was auctioned off in 2007, and it's really hard to find many images of it. The ones that I did find were taken from the Internet Archive site The Wayback Machine and newspaper archives. You can find tokens for sale from Joyrides on eBay. I have one of these. See, I work at a mini golf course and people bring old tokens in hoping they'll work on our batting cages. We find these artifacts when collecting tokens at the end of the shift. You might say, why would someone just throw that away when they can make $8 on eBay? Let me tell you, people get seriously addicted to the batting cages. There should be a support group. I came across a couple pictures of the Dragon roller coaster they had, an advertisement for the auction, and a gift certificate for sale on eBay. I also came across 2 videos for Boardwalk USA. A commercial.
What will $10 for family entertainment get you? It won't get you into a 2-hour movie once you buy a ticket, poppin' popcorn. It will get you a Boardwalk USA all-day play pass with up to 15 hours of unlimited rides, unlimited games, and now lunch is included. And Boardwalk saves you even more with available shorter play passes. Because money doesn't grow on trees, smart Colorado families play at Boardwalk USA. Call 745-PLAY for details.
And an old transfer of a VHS where Pauly Shore, yes, Pauly Shore visits the location. What in the heck?
Slam dunk, yeah!
If you don't know who Pauly Shore is, just Google something like 90s has-been. If anyone has any pictures or any more info, please let me know. It seems that Joyrides is mostly a pre-internet relic lost to time. It was leveled and now is the location of a vehicle exhaust reader. Now that's depressing. Champions is even harder to find images of. I managed to find their old website on the Wayback Machine as well, so there is a little bit of visual evidence that it did exist and that I'm not actually insane. Champions was primarily a mini golf course, but it also had an arcade, batting cages, and a full driving range. It was particularly cool because the mini golf course had features that most don't. For instance, there was a pirate ship that had pirate voices that would talk to you. Much like Joyrides, people are selling Champions tokens on eBay. I found a couple of these at work too. Speaking of my job, this pirate outpost was one of the attractions at Champions Golf and Games. Back when these places would go out of business, they were usually in a mad dash to get rid of everything, so other businesses were able to buy their stuff for super cheap. Champions was open from 1996 to 2006. On the screen now is a newspaper clip announcing its opening. After Champions closed, it sat abandoned for years and became overgrown with weeds and covered in graffiti. This is a video of me visiting the location back in the apathetic review days. Alright, we're here at an abandoned mini golf place that I went to as a kid, so let's go take a look. Alright, as you can see, the carpet is torn, weeds are coming up. This represents the broken dreams from my childhood and the larger human condition. What was that? Alright, this one.
Oh, dude, whoa, chill out, bro. It's all good. I'm just about to partake in some of the devil's lettuce, bro. Would you care to join me?
Yeah, no thanks. See ya.
Suit yourself, bro.
Okay, I want you to notice the tunnel that the actor came out of. Several homeless people had set up camp in there. We were a little too spooked to actually go all the way inside.
Yeah, I slipped in that tunnel for a couple of years, but I had to pack up and leave. Eventually, it turned into basically a motel for meth heads.
I found this article by a local radio station that talks about the homeless problem and the graffiti. Some of what it says is pretty shocking. Just read that title. Right below the headline it reads, "Warning, under no circumstances should you enter this property. By doing so, you risk bodily harm and/or prosecution for trespassing on private property." Whoops. It also contains a ton of creepy pictures. This one of the crawl space underneath the building is particularly haunting. You could not pay me enough to go down there. A couple of years back, the property was completely leveled and is now just a field. I used to think it was cool that it was left abandoned for so long, but after reading this article and seeing these pictures, I think the demolition was best for everybody. Before we get to the next segment, I wanted to add an honorable mention. Mountasia Family Fun Center. I found next to nothing about it online, so it doesn't warrant a full segment. It was a family fun center in Colorado Springs that had mini golf, go-karts, bumper boats, and an arcade. I've got one of their tokens too. Mountasia is not completely gone. It's now called Lost Island Mini Golf. Gone are the go-karts, bumper boats, and arcade, but the mini golf is still there, and they have bounce houses and an indoor play area. They have also added an American Ninja Warrior course. Wait, why? Mr. Biggs is not a place I went to as a kid. Its significance is in the fact that working here was one of my first jobs. This one is much easier to find info on because it existed when the internet was accessible to everyone. It opened just in time for Spring Break 2005. Unlike the other places we've covered so far, Mr. Biggs was entirely indoors. They had it all. Go-karts, mini golf, laser tag, a full arcade, a huge play area and a bounce room for little kids, bowling, an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet, and even a full bar for the deadbeat loser parents that can't handle letting their kids have one afternoon of fun without getting wasted. I'm sure I would have enjoyed this place as a kid, but working there was pretty awful. This is another clip of my current workplace. This sea serpent came from Mr. Biggs, and so did these black benches. Kinda weird to think that these items have followed me my entire career. Towards the end of their time, they started having concerts for mostly adult audiences on the opposite side of the building. I remember one evening, drugs were found in the bathroom. This was all while the fun center was still open. I don't know exactly who thought that was a good idea. After a rap concert in 2009, someone was murdered in the parking lot. Again, what was the mindset behind having these concerts here? Anyways, Mr. Biggs would close its doors in 2012. The owner also owned a very profitable call center, so he just converted Mr. Biggs into a second location. None of these remaining places were exclusive to Colorado Springs, and therefore are much more well documented.
I'm gonna build a family fun center that'll put all the other ones out of business. Just you wait.
I only went to Discovery Zone once as a kid with a homeschool group, but it blew my mind. Think of a play place but the size of a Safeway. There were mazes, ball pits, and slides. They also had an arcade. Discovery Zone was founded in 1989 and, believe it or not, was one of the first corporate sponsors of Sesame Street. It was also owned in part by Blockbuster Video. During the 90s, they made a deal with Saban Entertainment to have Power Rangers play on the televisions at every location. In its heyday, Discovery Zone had over 200 locations across the US. Sadly, DZ would enter bankruptcy in 1999 and never recover, eventually closing every location by the end of 2001. 2 new centers in Ohio and Kentucky would open locations in 2020. And although they are named Discovery Zone, they have nothing to do with the original other than being inspired by it. I guess both locations are still in existence, but I find it crazy that a family fun center that opened just in time for COVID-19 was able to survive.
That's right, kids. Bebop is my name. I'll be visiting Discovery Zone centers where you can jump, climb, crawl, slide, and have a blast. See you there.
These next few places are actually still in existence in one form or another, so if you have kids, bring them on down. This one is kind of strange to me. It's basically Chuck E. Cheese's, but without being Chuck E. Cheese's. It was founded in Arizona in 1973, which is actually 4 years before old Chuck hit the scene. There's nothing too crazy about Peter Piper Pizza. It's basically just a pizza place with a large arcade room. It was actually acquired by Chuck E. Cheese's owners in 2014 and is now considered Chuck E. Cheese's sister company. Today, Peter Piper Pizza has 149 locations in the US, but sadly, none of them are in Colorado. I guess I'll have to swing by New Mexico.
Peter Piper Pizza is the pizza people bet.
We've all been to and suffered through the aftermath of a trip to McDonald's. I don't need to go into its history or anything like that. I just wanted to mention how different the play places were when I was a kid. For one, they were much larger. They had miles of tubes to crawl through and ball pits. Nowadays, it's like one single tube if you're lucky enough to be at a McDonald's that even has a play place. You know, I wonder if cleanliness had anything to do with these places scaling back. There were always rumors that the ball pits were a cesspool. I remember finding dirty socks every time I went in one. I was also talking to my friend recently who said he couldn't imagine an employee climbing through and wiping down all the tubes. And I have to say, I can't either. It was probably super rare that they were actually cleaned. If you worked at one of these places and that simply is not true, please correct me.
My magic box makes us lunch.
Well, we've made it. The ultimate family fun center. The Rat Pizza King himself, Chuck E. Cheese. Much like McDonald's, there's not much I can tell you that you don't already know. Chuck E. Cheese's was a magical place in the 90s. The dimly lit eating area, the animatronic band. I went for just about every birthday as a child. I almost always got Power Rangers and Star Wars toys, so those are now associated with Chuck E. Cheese's too. And of course, here's another piece of my token collection from Chuck E. Cheese's. These are obviously much easier to come by than the others. There was a rumor going around for a while that you had to have kids in order to enter Chuck E. Cheese's, but it's not actually true. You can just show up by yourself as an adult. But honestly, why would you want to? That's pretty weird. I recommend just asking a friend to borrow their kid. That's much less weird. Speaking of rumors, there was a big internet rumor a few years ago that Chuck E. Cheese's recycles pizza. I haven't really seen anything to convince me that this is true in any way. In fact, I always thought their pizza was pretty good. During COVID, they did deliveries through DoorDash. We almost ordered it, but it was like $30 a pizza. No pizza is that good. Much like most places, within the last 10 years or so, Chuck E. Cheese has started serving alcohol. Again, why is that necessary? It's pathetic and sad that someone would need to drink at Chuck E. Cheese's.
There is so much to do. It's got me jumping up and sitting down, wishing we could go solo. Go to Chuck E. Cheese, I really want to. Go to Chuck E. Cheese, I wanna go to Chuck E. Cheese, I really want to. Go to Chuck E. Cheese, I wanna go to Chuck E. Cheese, I really want to.
In 2017, Chuck E. Cheese's retired the animatronic band in favor of a dance floor. This is one of the biggest tragedies of all time and something I refuse to get over. How could they treat the band like that? How?
Ignore him, so Bobby coming for him, that's when Buddy came walking by.
Well, thanks for taking a trip down memory lane with me. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this, or if this was just an awful experience for you. I had a blast making this one. I'll see you when I see you.
Are you looking for something fun to do this weekend? You know, maybe hang out with the fam for a bit? Well, boy, do I got something for you. Come on down to Rodneys Recreational area. Go for a ride on a super duper shopping cart.
Rodney, you're paying me for this, right?
You know, we can talk about that later. Or maybe chills are your thing. Take a tour of our haunted crawl space. Listen, come here. We even got a full arcade.
Rodney, I don't think it's fair calling this a full arcade. It's like a mini skee ball and a crappy handheld video game.
Just shut up and play the game, okay?
Roll a tire.
I don't know. See why all the local publications are giving us rave reviews. Talking 5 stars, 10 stars.
Rodneys Recreational Area is absolutely not safe for anyone under the age of 12 or over the age of 12. Rodneys Recreational Area is not liable for any injuries, bruises, broken bones, lacerations, concussions, severe life-threatening illnesses, being verbally assaulted, kidnapped, or murdered by our resident homeless man. Rodney is not open for interviews about anything regarding the recent allegations, so just stop asking. I'll get you all one day, you'll see.
Rodney, what the heck was that? I'm gonna need a refund.
All sales are final, I'm afraid.
Good luck staying in business, loser.
See you next time.